Welcome to the Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Minnoch-Nuku. I started this podcast because I have a fascination with healthy aging, and I'm constantly searching for guests to educate, inform, entertain, and inspire you to live an incredible second half of your life. So it's not surprising that I stumbled across the topic of menopause and down the rabbit hole I went. If you started listening to this podcast from the very first episode, you'll actually be joining me on the journey of discovering what menopause is and how best to support our menopause symptoms. And if you're new here, welcome. Before we kick off, can I just ask a wee favour from you? Would you mind giving a rating to this podcast? And if you are inclined, leave a review. I'm an indie podcaster, which means that this podcast is a passion project with minimal marketing budget, and having your review means that the podcast can be pushed into the ears of others that really need this information. Plus, it's motivating for me to keep scheduling in interviews and releasing topics that you might be interested in. Welcome to the Sexy Aging Podcast. I'm very excited to have this guest on the podcast because we actually have a little bit of a history of which we'll go through. But in this episode today, we are sharing a story about the journey of peri to post menopause. And it's only lately that I've been really thinking about what it means to be in post menopause. And I personally feel I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm talking to this guest today because she is there and I'm watching her daily. I follow her on Instagram, but also we're friends. I'm going to introduce Stella soon, but I watch her daily or, her Instagram posts and just, I think it's like a personal diary, just accountability for herself, taking care of herself and inspiring other women around her. And I think you are so inspiring, Stella. So I realized I should have interviewed you like years ago, but here we are now. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Trace. I'm very, very honoured to be here. This is just, an awesome opportunity to chat with you because we haven't chatted in a while as well.
Yeah, it's been a while. Although we do kind of text and send messages across all the different social platforms. And but I just think it might be a good place to start if you tell us a little bit about the beginning of your... Actually, let's just do an introduction, like how we actually know each other. Right, your version, go.
So I met Trace, what seems like, now it must be, 35 years, even more?
Holy shit.
Well, it would be. It was way back when I was an instructor, group fitness instructor as well. Trace was this hot chick that would come up on stage and you would just be like, she was super inspirational. Trace, you and your sister as well. That's how we met way, way, way back then. And then we both went different ways, quite similarly. You were in Malaysia and I was in Perth, Australia, and we didn't connect again for years. Hey, and then it was like we were both in the process of talking about moving back to New Zealand after 20 plus years being away and moving back to New Zealand. Yeah. And then we just reconnected and it's been so awesome to be back, having this connection again.
Yeah. And I also remember catching up with you at our friend Kylie's wedding in Perth. That's where we kind of reconnected after all the years, right? So our dear friend Kylie, who I'm doing a women's retreat with, I'll put the details in the show notes, coming up in May in Bali. It's our second time. So also is a really good friend of Stella's, and we ended up at her wedding, the same wedding, and kind of went, hey, we know each other.
I know you.
Put the pieces together. And then also we stayed connected from there and both moved back to New Zealand literally the same time during
in the middle
COVID.
Of COVID. I think we were like a week behind you in quarantine, weren't we?
Yeah. Hey, here's a good one. So we stayed we're in quarantine at the Waipuna Hotel, Waipuna Conference Centre. I think that was, and anyway, I was up there last week for the women's fitness conference and it was held there, and I walked into the lobby and I went, I feel like I've been here before. Except it looks so different because there's no security guards and there was no lines in places you're supposed to stand and no one's wearing masks. As it turns out, that was where I did my quarantine. How about that?
Wow. And we were just down the road at Sedema. We were like, a week later after you. You with your kids, me with mine.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And everyone came out alive.
During perimenopause. Add that to the mix.
Yeah. and my daughter in puberty.
See?
We had one room. You had 2 rooms, didn't you?
We had 2 rooms. Yeah, the boys were in one room, but we were meant to be a family of 5, and we ended up only being 4 because Graham was detained in Sydney. So
yeah, we had the same thing.
I had my teenage daughter as well with me, and it was just an experience, shall we say? Yeah.
We're talking about the experience. We are here to talk about the experience. So we also started connecting on the topic of menopause, and you reached out to me after. So I guess you started seeing that I was starting to talk about menopause, right? And reached out, and because we'd been talking, because of COVID and moving back and just having that in common, and then you're like, hey, I'm going through perimenopause. So do you want to share a little bit about your experience? Because you have had some unique symptoms of menopause that sort of came up for you that I'd never heard of before as well.
Yeah, so I guess for me, I didn't actually realise what I was going through at the time because I was just a little bit older than all of my friends who I was with in Perth to just sort of feel like all these things were happening to me. And it's only now when I actually look back, like I was reading something just a few weeks ago about itchy skin, which I had that years before any of the other symptoms that I had. And it's only now that I look back and go, that's probably where it started. But no one ever put that connection together. And I'd always had, my periods were never that much to worry about. They would they would, and they would come and go. And I never really had regular periods after I had my children anyway. So, and I did have my kids later in life. So I do, because I was nearly 39 when I had my third. So you sort of wonder then if all of that sort of escalated everything else as well. So, but I had things like vertigo, which was just horrendous and crippling and varying degrees of it, where I would be driving and then suddenly feel like I just needed to pull over because I was going to drive off the road. And, I had to have doctors come to the house sometimes because I couldn't even turn over and, be administered medication to stop me from vomiting. That was huge. I had terrible, terrible rage. At the time, my youngest was, 12-year-old boy. So you can imagine all the hormones that are going on in his life as well as mine. It was not great. And I often think, one day I'll have to read them, what I wrote in your memoirs, because it sort of really explained how I was feeling at the time. And there was, the obvious ones. I started putting on weight, I don't weigh myself. I've never been a person that weighs themselves. I believe that scales should only be used for weighing suitcases and not for bodies. But everything was starting to feel thicker. Like it was, I guess, for want of a better word, it was just, and nothing was changing. I've always, like you, always led a very active life. I've always looked after myself. So it was just these changes that were happening and I had no control over them. And then I had this issue with my voice. So, as you know, I took Ritalin, it's been nearly 30 years, and then I had started having this problem with my voice. And that coupled with the feelings that, I was sort of forgetting things, I didn't have that brain clarity, all those things. It was like, maybe I'm losing my voice for a reason. Maybe I'm not meant to be speaking about things anymore, and you lose that confidence in yourself. And they were really tough times.
I mean, you wrote an excerpt for my book, for my menopause memoir, about some of the symptoms that I hadn't had, and I needed to reach out to other people and get a real personal take on their experience. It was just really eye-opening for me, to realize that some of the symptoms that you were having, especially the one on vertigo, and how debilitating it was for you. That blew my mind. And now that we know what we know about estradiol receptors being right throughout the body and how it affects people differently, and how it's like a lotto ticket for women, you just don't know what you're going to get. And then we're not, the worst thing is when we're not talking about it, we don't know that people are having different experiences, right? We just assume from mainstream media that everyone would be having hot flashes and night sweats and a bit of brain fog. But when you're having
as well.
They were glorious.
Yeah,
amazing, right? So fun. when you mentioned at the beginning that I was this hot instructor or whatever, I'm like, no, I'm actually hot right now. It's a bit hot. It's the middle of summer, but I'm actually like sweating, and I shouldn't be sweating. But hey, maybe this is hopefully the end of my perimenopause symptoms.
Yeah,
10 years in now. 10 years. Here we go. But yeah, thank you so much for your sharing for the book. And I think that it has really resonated with people. And of course, hearing you speak about vertigo, this will maybe be an aha moment for someone that's listening. So you're coming through perimenopause, and what do you learn most about this stage of life? Like, what in hindsight, you're looking back now and thinking about some of the things that happened and going, oh, that was perimenopause. There's a point in time, and I think you can relate to this, that you go, okay, I'm in it. This is really happening. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I know. What has worked for you? Like, what was that pivotal moment where you started a bit of a mindset shift? Because I think that's what it takes, right? And start to make some changes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I likened it to my first child was a really terrible sleeper and had terrible reflux. And when you've wanted this baby for so long, and then it's just terrible times, and you have this moment where one day you just go, oh, I had that with Robbie, and I had a similar thing with my perimenopause journey. I vividly remember sitting in my wardrobe and just like absolutely not knowing whether to just sit there with my head in my hands or get in the car and drive away and leave everybody behind. It was that, like it was a real moment. And I thought, it was like, well, hang on, you can do one of two things. You can take off and try and run away from it, but you know that you're not going to, or you can actually start to take your power back. And I think that's the biggest thing. I started thinking about how I could empower myself to get through this time, because obviously, Google is a great thing when you sort of start looking at things thinking, but then it can be just such a rabbit hole of other BS, you've got to really work your way through that. And yeah, I just sort of started wondering, okay, what's my purpose in life? I've got these 3 kids, I'm in a lovely, loving relationship, but there's something missing in my life. And I think that was the thing where I started thinking, right, it's time for you, Stella, to stand up, stand in the woman that you are and find your purpose in life again. So I started a business.
Yeah. You did.
Crazy.
Yeah. But I actually think that this is such a similar story that I hear women who are going through real challenges with perimenopause symptoms, and maybe they're actually at a job already, right? Maybe they're already working for a company and they're having a moment where their perimenopause symptoms are banging up against their career aspirations, and they're feeling all kinds of things: brain fog, forgetfulness, anxiety, imposter syndrome, like all those mental and emotional symptoms of perimenopause banging up against the pressure to perform. And for many women, there is the doubt that creeps in: am I made or cut out for this? Am I supposed to be here? Should I actually walk away? A lot of women walk away from those high flyer jobs and basically sit with it for a while and then wonder, is this my purpose? A lot of them turn around that opportunity and create their own businesses. So we're starting to see this, like women in their sort of late 40s and 50s going, I'm not working for these guys anymore. And sometimes it's not because it's not a good place to work. It's just that perimenopause has pushed them over the edge,
Yeah.
And then they actually start thinking, well, actually, there's something else that lights me up that I want to do. And you went into that sort of healthy lifestyle business, which was always a given with your background in fitness and stuff. So congratulations.
Yeah, and it is. I think you just have to find the thing that lights you up and be kind to yourself. Like women, as women, we feel so much,
Yeah.
a lot of men have so much to say about the space and everything, which is fantastic that more men are starting to research and understand it. But women experience it, and we experience all the emotions, and we are so much more empathetic about things that go on. Like, men have this capability of just going like this, whereas we are doing the whole picture. We are we're not just thinking about ourselves, we're thinking about how our actions impact everything else around us. And it's really, it's empowering. And I think we need to recognize that rather than being overwhelmed by it all, which is what we tend to do as women. I used to be a person that wrote lists all the time, and I still do because I still forget things.
You were just talking, and in my head I'm going, we make lists, and you said it.
Yeah, because that's the thing, because we know we've got this, but also I used to be the person who I had to tick everything off the list, and now I don't, and I don't beat myself up about that. It's just like, no, like, what I've got to, I like to write three things down every morning, just 3, and then other things get added to it. But as long as I sort of get those 3 done, then I'm happy. Whereas before it would be like, if you haven't done this whole list, then your day's been a complete fail. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'm literally down to 3 things. I actually write down 5 and I put a line under number 3, because if I get the 3 done, I can stop there if I'm feeling like I'm done for the day.
Yeah.
And if I feel like, I've got a little bit of energy or I've got a little bit more time, I will carry on and I'll do the other 2. Otherwise, those 2 go across to the top of the list for the next day. And there's just that has come from a place of being kind to myself, and also realizing that I've only got so much capacity in my brain now. A lot of people do actually say to me, it just looks like you're going 100 miles an hour. And I think if they realize that I'm actually going at about 50% of what I used to do, they would not believe it.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like the 50% feels really good and feels like sustainable.
Absolutely. And I have this mantra now, I like myself, I like myself, I like myself, because
I love that.
We can be really hard on ourselves where we shouldn't be. We shouldn't be. We are incredible. Like, women are, just by the nature of being a woman, we are incredible what we can do.
Your complete midlife and menopause health coach is here. The Sexy Aging Health and Fitness app has everything you'll need for this stage of your life and beyond. Personalised fitness training programs that build lean muscle from beginners to advanced. Personalised nutrition where you can choose from vegan, vegetarian, dairy-free, gluten-free, the menopause meal plan, and more. There are education videos that help you understand menopause symptoms. There are new weekly Workout With Me videos added as bonus extras. You can do sprint interval training and HIIT workouts and train your balance, mobility, agility, and core. Wait, there's more. Mental health video series, a personalised chat function, menopause symptom tracker, period tracker, and a community group. You'll be able to ditch all the individual apps you've got stored on your phone taking up space and use the Sexy Aging app for all of it. This is a monthly subscription-based program with the option to cancel or pause at any time. There are 2 types of monthly subscriptions. One is for fitness workouts only, and the other is all-inclusive. And there's an exclusive 20% discount off your first month subscription with the code PODCAST. So check the link in the show notes that will take you to the info page to find out more. Yeah. Hey, so you're in the wardrobe. You've got your head in your hands. You start a business.
Yeah.
And so what starts to happen for you? So you're probably about halfway through your perimenopause journey. And so what are some changes that you make that actually start to make you feel better about things? Can you sort of pinpoint a couple of sort of top things that you started to do?
Exercise was a big one, because I loved my cardio. I loved that cardio hit, but I always loved lifting weights as well. So I switched that, because I was like, well, if I can't feel, because I wasn't feeling fit, I thought, well, at least I can try and feel strong, so that was the thing. That was a big change. So of course I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say this one, controversial, alcohol. I had to just sort of lower that, because I recognised that if I was choosing to drink, I was choosing not to sleep.
Yeah. Well, you know that the last episode is about alcohol, right? So your timing is immaculate, Stella, because our last episode is are we breaking up with alcohol now?
Yeah.
The last bastion of joy and one of the rites of passage in New Zealand. But yeah, we actually had a deep dive around the fallout and keeping alcohol in your diet when you're going through menopause, and how maybe it's a bit of a time to really evaluate that because, like you said, if you're choosing to drink, you're choosing not to sleep. Yeah.
And no matter what anyone says, that's the truth. Like, that is the truth. And if you want, I mean, I love to have a G&T on a hot summer's day, but have it early. Like, don't have it late. Like, have a, and that's the thing. And I will never be a person who never drinks again.
Yeah, me too.
I certainly don't put as much, it doesn't bring me the joy that it used to, put it that way.
Yeah. So you flip the switch on your exercise and you're doing more strength than cardio. Your cardio's still there because, of course, it's good to be,
I love the buzz from cardio. Like, you got to love that buzz. And still now, here we are, quite a few years later, I still love getting that buzz from cardio. And I think that's an important thing. You've got to do the things you love and the things that bring you joy. I changed my diet up a lot. I tried a few different things. I had tried a few different things over the years, and now I sort of feel like I'm in that happy space again.
Yeah, what's working for you right now? So I think the listeners will be really curious as to, like we're always really curious. What are you eating? What are you eating? So what's happening for you?
So I love a protein smoothie in the morning. Like that's my kickstart always. That whole thing of getting protein in the morning is so important and makes such a difference. And it fills you up. And that's where, we've got to stop demonizing food groups and just making sure that we're getting balance. And it's really hard to get, I think what's the recommendation? 1.8 to 2.2 grams of protein. That's a lot. Like, and if you actually try to do that, it's almost impossible. And,
it's good if you're a professional CrossFitter. If you're training for an international CrossFit competition or an Ironman, or you're an endurance athlete. But I'm actually at the 1.2 to 1.8 grams and based around how active you are. So I think you and I are probably about 1.8 grams. Like, we're quite consistent.
Yeah.
But it's hard. Like, you've got to really,
it's really hard.
Dial it in. Yeah.
You've got to be really mindful. And, like making sure that those snacks are protein snacks and things like that. You do have to be mindful of it. But I know that when I have a good day, you really feel it at the end of the day compared to when you've made some maybe different choices and you get to sort of, and I'm a 12-hour faster. I don't believe it needs to be too much more than 12 to 14 hours. So I always make sure that I have, that at least 12 hours between my last meal and first meal in the morning. Just purely because your body needs it, and you don't need to be snacking all night long. And that's just a habit we get into. It's one of those things that you can break. Yeah, so I'm a protein shake generally. Lunch is, a salad or omelette or something like that, high protein based again. I'll sometimes have just a yogurt and protein afternoon snack with fruit. I love avocados as well. So, avocados and eggs is a big thing for me. Tuna on crackers. I love salmon. And dinner is, like tonight we had beautiful, and this is why I love summer. Summer's great.
Yeah.
Put something on the barbecue, have a beautiful big salad next to it, and, sweet potatoes, yum. It's easy.
Yeah. So good. And you're pretty consistent,
overcomplicate
it. Yeah. No. I actually wrote a post today about getting protein and how actually easy it is. Like, it's so confusing for people and they feel like they have to make all these specialist meals. Actually, the actual cooking is really basic. It's just how you flavor it, And like you, I love summer food. I just love salads. Love the, putting fruit in my salads, like strawberries or berries.
Target traits now.
Yeah.
Nectarines. Stone fruit. Oh.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So beautiful.
Love it.
Yeah. Right. So we're going to jump across to probably the main reason that I wanted to catch up with you, because I'm probably fast tracking. I'm not far behind you, but the post-menopause years. Stella, we need some hope. For anyone that's thick in their perimenopause symptoms, is really struggling, tell us, share with us, what's it like in your post-menopause years? We need some hope.
Oh, you do step into your power. I mean, you hear that a lot, and you do. I know right now you sort of feel like you're just in this, like, this forest and you can't actually see your way out of it. And there may be a little speck in the distance and that's what you're going for. And then suddenly you just come out in the light, and it just sounds so cliche. Now that I've said it, it sounds so cliche, but it's so true. It's like when you walk out and the angels go, ah, and you start, yeah. And it's like, and like for me, I don't even really know. There was a time when on my phone I had my last period, and then get another one. So then you put the date of that one, then, oh God, you get another one. Like you get to 6 months, you think, here we go, get another one. And I had that for ages. I couldn't even tell you when my last period was. Like that, it's for that moment in time, and it is a moment, it will pass. It's all you can think about, and then you come out the other side and you think, why, why did I give that so much? Because it's just, it's beautiful on the other side. Like I love my life. I love where I'm at. I love that there's so much ahead of me. And, if you think, what's the average age for women these days? Is it like 87 or is it early 90s?
86, 87. Yeah.
Yeah. And you think, that, and sadly, I see a lot of women in their 50s who sort of feel like that's the end, when really this is it's like puberty. That's the start of something amazing. It's like post-menopause. It's the start of your next amazing chapter. And you have to embrace that and know that there is so much waiting for you on the other side.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. Like I mentioned, I think I'm really close. And a lot of what you've said really resonates, like that feeling of and everything feels cliche, but feeling like you really know yourself, and for me personally, one of the things that I feel like I've come to is a huge amount of compassion for others. Like I wouldn't say I wasn't not a compassionate person before, but because I was so ambitious, I couldn't appreciate other people's journeys. I would just be thinking, if you're not working as hard as me, get out of the way. That was the way I was, and it did fuel me and it did drive me and it did support what I needed to do at the time. But menopause has meant that you actually have to physically stop and reevaluate what the fuck's going on with kids. It's so challenging, like you've mentioned, sitting in the wardrobe. I remember thinking I'm just going to smash my car into a wall and that might be better for everyone. That pivotal moment where you're just like, okay.
Yeah.
Then you crawl your way through and a lot of things changes. If you do all the right things, the right exercise, start to work on your diet, bring your stress levels down, all those things, you actually realize, oh, this is what it's all about. It's preparing me for another 3 or 4 decades of life, but not just physically. It's preparing me mentally to show up, best version of myself. This is who I am. And yeah, my skin is a bit, not as good, and I got grey hair and all this stuff. But actually, I'm good with that now. Right. So, and that's wonderful. Like it's a wonderful way to feel. I do not care what you think about the way I look, because today I am as strong as I'll ever be. I'm as strong as I was in my 20s. Like how freaking awesome is that? And I think we are the new wave of postmenopausal women, Stella.
And that's true, because I have a lot of women saying to me, oh, I watch what you do every day and it's just, it's unattainable and all this. And I'm like, why? So it's like, it's a choice. You choose. Well, the choices we're making now determine and it is 3 or 4 decades. Like, and I want to be my party trick is cartwheels and handstands, and I plan on being able to do those in my 80s and 90s.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, that, and I was very much like you. Like I didn't really have, I was always a person who cared about other people as well, but I was like, well, come on, you're choosing to let yourself go. You're choosing not to be able to, run around the track with your kids. You're choosing that. And I was really, those who matter don't mind and those who mind don't matter with headspace. But now I have a completely different view of that. As you know, I lost my mum at a very young age. She was only 62. So for me, that's only 5 years' time. I went through a really tough time of thinking, if I only live to that age, then I won't see grandchildren because, I was 35 when I had my first child. So I could have allowed that to take me out of the game, or I could have allowed that to empower what the rest of my life looks like. And so, the choices I make, and they will determine what happens to me from here on in. So, you've got to take that power back, and you've got to be the one who determines what the rest of your life is going to look like.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And on that note, Stella, thank you so much for joining me in the Sexy Aging podcast today. You're looking fantastic. You've got this aura. You're just glowing. And I really appreciate you talking to me today.
Oh, and because of those sexy aging workouts you put me through, I'm so proud to be a number 1 day ambassador for you. It's like, those workouts are gold. Get yourself on them, people.
Yeah, I'll pop everything in the show notes, but Stella has absolutely kicked butt using the Sexy Aging app, which has fitness workouts and nutrition. So thank you, Stella, for all that you do, showcasing every workout every day. Amazing. Even I don't do that. So amazing. I just repost. Stella's my girl.
Thank you,
See you later.
It's been awesome to chat with you. See ya.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sexy Aging, and a huge thank you once again to my guest who offers their time and their knowledge. Hey, if you love this episode, go and check out some of the other ones and subscribe to the podcast so I can continue to bring you content you will love. I'd also appreciate a review if you've got a minute, and if you are watching or listening to this episode on Spotify, there is the opportunity to give specific feedback and comments on this episode. So get out there and stay sexy.